Chapter 14. The Devil's Smile. The police sirens grew louder until flashing blue lights painted the windows. 2 officers stormed inside, quickly taking Damien into custody. His wrists were cuffed tightly, but his eyes never left Ariana. As he was dragged toward the door, he smirked, a devil's smile that froze Ariana's blood. "You think you've won?" he taunted. "This is only the beginning. The Grant Empire will burn, and when it does, you'll beg for me to finish it." Ariana's breath caught, but Tarek pulled her into his arms, shielding her from Damien's venom. "Get him out of here," Tarek barked, his voice sharp with command. The officers hauled Damien away, but his mocking laughter echoed down the hall long after the door slammed shut. Ariana sagged against Tarek's chest, trembling. He tightened his hold on her, his warmth steadying her. "Don't listen to him," he whispered into her hair. "He can't hurt you, not while I'm here." For a long moment, they just stood there, holding each other, letting the silence wash over them. Ariana felt safe, truly safe, for the first time in years. And yet Damien's words lingered like poison. "Tarek," she whispered, looking up into his eyes. "What if he finds a way out? What if he destroys everything?" Tarek's gaze softened, but there was steel behind it. He lifted her chin gently. "Then we fight together. No more secrets between us. No more pretending this is just a contract." Her heart skipped. His words were more than comfort, they were a vow. The intensity in his eyes left her breathless. She leaned into him, unable to resist the pull any longer. Their lips met again, slower this time, deeper. Less about desperation, more about claiming something real. When they finally broke apart, Ariana whispered, almost in disbelief, This feels dangerous." Tarek smiled faintly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "It is, but it's the kind of danger worth living for." Outside, the night fell silent. But somewhere in the shadows, Damien's promise lingered. And Ariana knew. Their fight was far from over. Chapter 15. Between the Lines. The house was finally quiet. The flashing lights had faded, the officers gone. Damien was behind bars, at least for now, but Ariana couldn't sleep. She stood by the window, staring at the moonlight on the garden, her thoughts a storm. She felt Tarek before she heard him. His presence filled the room like gravity, steady and unyielding. "You should rest," he said softly, his voice low and husky. She turned, catching the outline of him in the dim light. Broad shoulders, sharp jaw, eyes that held too much intensity for her heart to bear. "I can't," she admitted, her voice trembling. "Every time I close my eyes, I hear his voice and see his smile." Tarek crossed the room in 2 strides. His hand brushed her arm, grounding her. "Then focus on something else," he murmured. "Focus on me." Her breath caught. The distance between them vanished, and suddenly she was caged between the window and his body. "This isn't part of the contract," she whispered. Her words shaky, but her hands had already found his chest, tracing the steady rise and fall of his breath. "No," he admitted, his lips so close she could feel the warmth of them. "It's not. But nothing about what I feel for you is written on paper." Her heart raced. The wall she'd built for so long cracked under the weight of his words. "Tarek," she breathed. But the rest of her protest melted as his fingers brushed her cheek, then slid into her hair. The kiss that followed was slower than before, deliberate, filled with tension that pulled every nerve taut. It was the kind of kiss that promised more, yet lingered just on the edge, teasing, refusing to break too far past the line. When they finally broke apart, Ariana was trembling. Not from fear, but from the fire coursing through her veins. "We're playing with fire," she whispered. Tarek's lips curved into a half-smile, his voice low and dangerous. "Then let it burn." The air between them thickened, but before the moment could tip into something more, a sudden vibration broke the silence. Ariana's phone lit up on the table. An unknown number, a single message. "He's not finished." Ariana's heart dropped. The danger was still close, but so was Tarek, and that made all the difference. Chapter 16. Escape in the Shadows. The city felt too heavy, every corner reminding Ariana of Damien's threats. At dawn, Tarek made the decision. "We're leaving," he said firmly, tossing a small bag over his shoulder. "You need space to breathe. Somewhere he can't reach you." Ariana didn't argue. For once she wanted to run, not from love, but from the chains of her past. They drove for hours, the city lights fading into winding country roads. Ariana leaned against the window, watching the sun rise over golden fields. For the first time in days, her chest loosened, her breaths no longer sharp with fear. Tariq glanced at her, his hand tightening on the wheel. "You're smiling," he said softly. She turned to him, a faint blush warming her cheeks. "It feels peaceful, like maybe we can start over." "Maybe we already have," he replied, his eyes lingering on her longer than they should have. They stopped at a small cabin hidden deep in the hills. It was quiet, wrapped in trees and birdsong. Tariq carried their bags inside and Ariana followed, her heart thudding at the intimacy of being alone with him. Truly alone. As night fell, they sat by the fireplace, the glow painting their faces in shades of gold. Tariq poured her a glass of wine, his fingers brushing hers as he passed it over. The air thickened. Every glance lasted too long, every silence hummed with unspoken words. "Tariq," Ariana whispered, her voice trembling. "What happens if I don't want this to end when the contract does?" He froze, eyes locked on hers. Slowly he reached for her hand, his thumb stroking her skin. "Then it doesn't end." The confession hung between them, pulling them closer, almost too close. Crack. A branch snapped outside. Tariq was on his feet instantly, every muscle tense. Ariana's heart plummeted. The cabin was miles from the city. No one should have been out there. Through the window, a shadow shifted among the trees. Damien's promise echoed in her head. He's not finished. They hadn't escaped the danger. The danger had followed them. Chapter 17, The Siege. The sound came again, closer this time. Tariq motioned for Ariana to stay low as he silently retrieved the pistol he'd taken from Damien during their last fight. The cabin's old wooden walls creaked under the weight of silence. Ariana's heart hammered so loudly she swore whoever was outside could hear it. Then crash! The window shattered. Glass sprang across the floor as two masked men forced their way in. Ariana screamed, but Tariq moved like lightning, shoving her behind the couch. "Stay down," he barked, raising the gun. The intruders lunged. One swung a crowbar, but Tariq caught his arm and slammed him hard against the wall. The other charged toward Ariana. She scrambled back, fear freezing her, until Tariq fired. The shot rang through the cabin. The second man dropped, clutching his shoulder, howling in pain. But more shadows loomed outside. The cabin wasn't just being attacked, it was surrounded. Ariana clutched Tariq's arm, trembling. "There's more of them." His jaw was tight, eyes blazing with fury. Damien's pulling strings already. The front door rattled violently, then burst open. Another man stormed in, knife glinting. Tariq kicked the table, sending it crashing into him, then pulled Ariana to her feet. "We can't stay here," he growled. "They'll burn us alive if we do." "Where do we go?" she cried. "Anywhere but here." He grabbed her hand, dragging her toward the back door. The two of them bolted into the darkness of the woods, Ariana's pulse pounding. Tariq's grip the only thing keeping her steady. Behind them, the cabin glowed suddenly with fire. The attackers had set it ablaze. Flames roared, lighting up the night, Damien's message clear. "You can run, but you'll never hide." Ariana stumbled, but Tariq pulled her close, his breath hot against her ear. "I promised I'd protect you," he said fiercely. "And I will, even if it kills me." The forest swallowed them whole, their only chance of survival hidden in the shadows. Chapter 18, In the dark, the forest was alive with danger. Snapping twigs, distant shouts, and the eerie crackle of fire from the burning cabin behind them. Tariq didn't stop until Ariana was breathless, her legs trembling beneath her. Finally, he spotted an abandoned hunting shack half hidden under thick branches. He pulled her inside, closing the door softly behind them. The shack was small, cold, and smelled of dust and old wood. A single broken lantern sat on the floor, but it was shelter. Ariana slumped against the wall, her chest rising and falling rapidly. "Tariq." They were everywhere. "If you hadn't—" "Don't," he cut in, kneeling in front of her. His hand found hers, steady and warm despite the chill. "I won't let anything happen to you. Not now, not ever." Her eyes glistened. Why risk your life for me? This was supposed to be a contract, nothing more." Tariq's jaw clenched. He leaned closer, his face just inches from hers. "Because somewhere along the line, Ariana, you stopped being a contract." Her breath caught. The weight of his words pressed heavier than the silence around them. The danger outside made everything sharper. The heat of his hand on hers, the storm in his eyes, the unspoken truth simmering between them. "Tariq," she whispered, her voice trembling. He brushed a lock of hair from her face, his touch gentle against the chaos raging beyond the walls. "I don't care what comes after this. I only know I can't lose you." The tension snapped. His lips captured hers. urgent, consuming, as though the kiss itself was a battle against the fear pressing in on them. Ariana melted into him, clutching his shirt, her body aching with equal parts terror and need. Outside, footsteps crunched in the distance, voices called, searching. But in that fragile shack, in the fragile moment, they held on to each other as if the world beyond no longer existed. Only the danger and the desire remained. Chapter 19. The Confession. The silence in the shack was broken only by their ragged breathing, the world outside fading into a distant hum. Ariana's lips tingled from the force of Tariq's kiss, her heart still racing from the chaos. But now there was something stronger than fear, something she couldn't hold back any longer. "Tariq," she whispered, her voice fragile. "I was never supposed to feel this. I told myself over and over it was just an arrangement, a way to protect what my parents left me. But when you look at me like this, when you fight for me the way you do..." Her throat tightened, but she forced the words out. "I don't know how to stop falling for you." Tariq's eyes darkened with emotion. He sat back slightly, studying her face as though memorizing every line. Slowly, he reached out, brushing his fingers over her cheek. "You think you're the only one fighting this?" His voice was low, rough. "Ariana, I walked into this marriage thinking I was doing you a favor, that I'd protect you, keep my distance, and walk away clean when the contract ended. But every time you smile at me, every time you're afraid and reach for me, it breaks me. Because I know I'd burn the world down before I let anyone touch you." Ariana's breath caught. The raw truth in his words, the fire in his eyes, it stripped away every wall she had left. She leaned into his touch, her hand sliding over his chest. "Then don't walk away," she whispered. His lips parted, his breath heavy. "You don't know what you're asking. Being with me means danger. I'm not like the men you were meant to marry. I come with shadows, Ariana." Her voice was steady now, braver than she felt. "Then I'll walk through the shadows with you." Something inside him broke. With a guttural sound, Tariq pulled her into his arms again, kissing her with a hunger that left no space for doubt. This kiss was deeper than survival, it was surrender. When they finally broke apart, Ariana rested her forehead against his, their breaths mingling. "Tariq," she murmured, "if this is wrong, then I don't ever want to be right." For a moment, the world was theirs alone. No Damien, no threats, no contracts. Just two souls bound together in the fire of their confession. But outside, the forest was stirring. The danger hadn't left them. It was only waiting. Chapter 20. A Night in the Shadows. The shack grew colder as night fell, but neither Ariana nor Tariq moved to find blankets. They sat close, shoulder to shoulder, as if the slightest distance would allow the fear outside to slip back in. Ariana broke the silence first. "Do you think they're still out there?" Tariq's gaze swept toward the cracks in the wooden wall, where faint moonlight spilled through. His jaw tightened. "Yes, men like Damien don't give up after one failed strike. They wait, they circle, they hunt." A shiver ran through her, not just from fear but from the way his voice carried both danger and promise. She hugged her knees to her chest, resting her chin lightly on them. "Then maybe this night is all we have." Tariq turned to her, eyes narrowing. "Don't talk like that." Her lips curved into a sad smile. "I'm not giving up. I'm just saying, sometimes one night can change everything." The weight of her words pressed between them. Slowly, Tariq reached over, his hand finding hers in the dimness. Their fingers tangled, not out of fear this time, but choice. "I swore I'd protect you," he said, his voice softer now. "But somewhere along the way, you became more than someone I had to protect. You became someone I can't imagine living without." Ariana's breath caught. She shifted closer, her head resting against his shoulder. The steady beat of his heart calmed the storm inside her. They didn't speak for a long while. The world outside crackled with distant sounds, the cry of an owl, the snap of a twig. But in the little shack, time seemed to pause. When she finally looked up at him, the firelight from the broken lantern flickered across his face, deepening the shadows in his eyes. Their lips hovered close, not rushing this time, but savoring the pull, the inevitability. When they kissed, it was unhurried, tender yet burning with the unspoken knowledge that danger was never far. Their hands explored carefully, memorizing as though the night itself might be their only witness. And outside, in the depth of the woods, unseen footsteps shifted closer, watching, waiting. The storm hadn't struck yet, but it was coming. Chapter 21. Ambush at Dawn. The first light of dawn crept through the cracks in the shack, painting faint stripes across Ariana's face. She stirred awake, her head still resting on Tariq's chest. For a heartbeat, she allowed herself to believe the world outside had forgotten them. But Tariq hadn't slept, his instincts wouldn't allow it. His arm tightened protectively around her. "Shh," he whispered as she blinked up at him. "Don't move." Ariana froze. That was when she heard it. The soft crunch of boots in the undergrowth. The creak of a branch giving way. The muffled voices of men, her blood ran cold. Before she could speak, the shack's door exploded inward with a violent kick. Masked figures swarmed in, weapons glinting in the pale light. Tariq shoved Ariana behind him, his voice a growl. "Stay down!" The first man rushed forward with a knife. Tariq disarmed him with brutal speed, twisting his wrist until the blade clattered to the floor. Another swung a bat, but Tariq ducked low, ramming him hard into the wall. Ariana scrambled back, her heart pounding, scanning desperately for something, anything she could use to defend herself. Her fingers closed around a heavy iron lantern. "Tariq!" she cried, and when another attacker lunged, she swung with all her strength. The lantern cracked against the man's shoulder, sending him stumbling with a curse. But there were too many. 3 more forced their way inside. One grabbed Ariana's arm, yanking her back. She screamed, struggling, but the grip was iron. Tariq roared, fury burning through him as he tore the man away, slamming him into the floorboards. The fight was chaos, grunts, shouts, the splinter of wood. Blood on the walls. The shack barely held together under the violence. Finally, Tariq dragged Ariana toward the back, shoving open a half-rotted door. "Run!" he shouted, his voice raw. They stumbled into the forest as shouts followed, bullets tearing through the trees. Ariana's lungs burned, her legs weak, but Tariq's grip on her hand was unyielding. They weren't just running for escape anymore. They were running for survival. And as Ariana glanced back at the smoking shack, one thought cut through her fear like ice. Damien had promised he wasn't finished. And he meant every word. Chapter 22. Torn apart. The forest was alive with gunfire and shouts. Branches whipped across Ariana's face as Tariq dragged her deeper into the trees, his every instinct screaming for her safety. "Don't stop!" he barked, his hand tight around hers. But the hunters knew these woods. They fanned out, closing in with ruthless precision. A shot cracked through the air, striking the tree trunk inches from Ariana's head. She stumbled, her legs nearly giving out. Tariq swung back, catching her before she fell. His eyes, wild, desperate, met hers. "Stay with me, Ariana. Just a little further." The words were cut short by the sudden rush of men breaking from the shadows. One struck Tariq hard from the side, knocking him off balance. Another lunged at Ariana, yanking her arm so violently she cried out. "No!" Tariq roared, slamming his fist into the attacker's face. The man dropped, but 2 more replaced him, their grips brutal. Ariana kicked and clawed, screaming Tariq's name. "Let me go, Tariq!" Tariq fought like a man possessed, but the odds were against him. A rifle butt smashed into his ribs, dropping him to his knees. Blood streaked his mouth, his breath ragged. "Run!" He tried to shout, but Ariana was already being dragged back, her nails scraping the earth, her sobs tearing through the air. "Tariq!" Their eyes locked in that last desperate moment, the promise, the fire, the love they hadn't even had time to claim fully. His body surged forward in one last futile attempt, but a blow to the back of his head sent him crashing down. A hood was thrown over Ariana's head, her screams muffled as rough hands pulled her into the shadows. The forest fell silent but for the sound of her being carried away. Tariq lay on the ground, bloodied but alive, his vision swimming. His fists clenched into the soil as the rage consumed him. They had taken her, and whoever dared put their hands on Ariana Grant had just declared war. Chapter 23. Broken but unyielding. The forest was silent again, but inside Tariq's chest a storm raged. He pushed himself up, every muscle screaming, his ribs bruised, his head pounding. Blood dripped from his split lip, staining the dirt beneath him. But none of that mattered. They had Ariana. For a moment he collapsed back against the tree, his body trembling, his breath ragged. The image of her face, the terror in her eyes, the way her voice cracked as she screamed his name, burned into his mind like fire. Tariq, it wasn't just memory. It was a call of plea, a chain yanking him to his feet. He staggered forward, using the tree trunk to steady himself. His fist clenched so hard his nails bit into his palms. Pain was nothing, fear was nothing. Only one truth remained. He would not stop until she was back in his arms. The world blurred, but his focus sharpened. He picked up the knife one of the men had dropped in the struggle. Its weight was crude but solid in his hand. He tucked it into his belt. "Damien thinks he's won," Tariq muttered, his voice hoarse but steady. But he just lit the fire that will burn him alive. With every step he took deeper into the woods, a new piece of him hardened. Gone was the street vendor with easy laughter. Gone was the man who once kept his fists down, who let life push him aside. What remained was steel. Every branch snapped under his boots with purpose. His body screamed, but his heart beat to one rhythm only. Find her. Save her, destroy anyone who stands in the way. When he reached the edge of the forest, the faint outline of tire tracks caught his eye, leading toward the old industrial road. He crouched, his fingers brushing over the fresh impressions in the dirt. They were sloppy, rushed. Damien's men were confident, believing Tariq broken, but they were wrong. Tariq rose slowly, the first rays of the rising sun cutting across his face. His shadow stretched long behind him, but his eyes were forward, sharp, burning. "They'll regret touching her," he whispered. And with that vow, Tariq set out, bloodied, battered, and unstoppable. Chapter 24. The Hunter. The industrial road stretched ahead, empty and silent, but Tariq moved like a shadow. Every sound, the crunch of gravel, the whisper of wind, was amplified in his senses. Damien's men had underestimated him. Big mistake. He crouched behind a rusted shipping container, observing two guards patrolling near a parked van. Both were armed, confident, laughing quietly. They had no idea the storm was coming. Tariq's fingers tightened around the knife at his belt. He didn't hesitate. In a blur, he leapt from cover, landing silently behind the first man. A single, precise strike took the man down before the second even reacted. The second guard spun, but Tariq was faster, tackling him to the ground. A swift punch, a lock of the arm, and he was unconscious. Tariq didn't pause to look at their bodies. He scanned the area, every shadow a possible threat, every noise a clue. His only thought, Ariana, she's alive, and I'm coming for her. A map from the van revealed the next location, an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. Damien's men had been sloppy, leaving trails, underestimating Tariq's instincts, his relentless drive. As he moved from shadow to shadow, picking off one man after another, his mind replayed every second of Ariana's capture. Her scream, her eyes, her trembling hands. That image fueled him more than adrenaline ever could. By dusk, he had reached the warehouse, silently dispatching the last two lookouts with precision and ferocity. Sweat and blood coated his body, but his focus never wavered. He crouched outside the building, listening. Inside, he could hear faint murmurs. Damien's men arguing, a guard pacing, maybe even Ariana. Tariq's jaw tightened, every muscle coiled. He drew a deep breath, steadying himself. The hunter was here, the prey was waiting, and nothing, not fire, not bullets, not Damien's army, would stop him from bringing her back. Chapter 25. Shadows in the Warehouse. Tariq pressed himself against the cold metal wall of the warehouse, every sense on high alert. Moonlight spilled through the broken roof, creating narrow strips of silver that cut across the dusty floor. Inside, Damien's men moved lazily, unaware of the predator in their midst. Every whisper, every shuffle of boots echoed like a drum in Tariq's ears. He counted their positions, memorized their patterns, and planned each step with deadly precision. Ariana's faint sobs drifted through the cracks of the walls. His heart clenched, but he forced himself to stay calm. Panic would be their enemy. Silence and patience would be their weapon. He crept along the perimeter, avoiding puddles and loose debris. One guard dozed near a stack of crates, an easy target. Tariq silently neutralized him, dragging the body into the shadows before it could be seen. Another patrol passed, and he flattened himself against the wall, barely daring to breathe. The air smelled of oil, sweat, and fear, his fear now completely focused on keeping Ariana safe. Finally, he found the locked door leading to the room where she was held. Damien had underestimated him. The lock was old, a few careful twists, and it gave way with a soft click. Inside, Ariana sat huddled in a corner, hooded and trembling. Relief washed over her face when she saw Tariq slip inside. "Tariq," she whispered, her voice cracking. He approached slowly, kneeling beside her. "Shh, I've got you," he murmured, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "But we have to move quietly. Can you do that?" She nodded, clinging to him as he guided her back toward the shadows. Each step was measured, each breath controlled. Outside, a guard's boots echoed too close for comfort. But Tariq froze them in place with his stillness, then moved again when the coast was clear. Every second was a razor edge of tension, every shadow a possible death. But Tariq's eyes never left Ariana. When at last they slipped out into the night, free from the immediate threat, Tariq held her close. "We're not safe yet," he whispered, "but we're together now." Ariana pressed her face into his chest, heart pounding. "I knew you'd come, and I always will," he said, voice low, dangerous, and full of promise. The darkness surrounded them, but for the first time since her capture, Ariana felt the faintest glimmer of hope, and the undeniable heat of the bond that danger had only strengthened. Chapter 26. The Final Showdown. The city skyline glowed faintly in the distance as Tariq and Ariana crouched behind the abandoned crates in the warehouse district. Every muscle in Tariq's body screamed for action, but he held himself still, letting Ariana breathe, letting her know he was there. "This is it," he whispered, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "We end this tonight. Damien won't hurt you or anyone else again." Ariana nodded, gripping his arm tightly. Fear and adrenaline mingled with the heat of their closeness. "I trust you," she said softly. They stepped into the open, moving silently toward the largest warehouse. Damien's voice carried over the hum of machinery inside, mocking, triumphant. "So you came for her," he sneered, stepping into the light. "I knew you couldn't stay away." Tariq didn't answer. He simply advanced, eyes locked on Damien, every step deliberate. Behind him, Ariana followed, her hands ready, her heart steady with trust in him. The fight began with a roar. Damien lunged, a blade in hand, but Tariq met him head-on, deflecting the strike and countering with a precise blow. Damien stumbled but recovered, fury blazing. Ariana moved to intercept one of the guards, rushing to Damien's side, using a fallen pipe to knock him off balance. The chaos swirled around them, sparks flying, shouts, the clash of metal. Damien grabbed Ariana suddenly, spinning her away from Tariq. "You'll never leave here alive," he hissed. Tariq's eyes blazed. With a sudden surge, he tackled Damien, the two men crashing to the floor in a flurry of fists and steel. Every blow was fueled by rage, fear, and unyielding love. Ariana, heart-hammering, freed herself from Damien's grip, joining Tariq. Together, they pressed forward, striking with precision and desperation. Damien faltered, his arrogance cracking under their combined strength. Finally, Tariq pinned him, blade to his throat. Damien's smirk faltered, fear flickering in his eyes for the first time. "It's over," Tariq growled, his voice low and dangerous. "You won't hurt her again." Damien's breathing was ragged, his empire of terror crumbling in that instant. The sound of approaching sirens confirmed it. Backup had arrived, too late to save Damien, but just in time to witness his defeat. Tariq turned to Ariana, pulling her into his arms. Her body shook, but her lips met his in a long, lingering kiss. Relief, desire, and love all entwined. "We're alive," she whispered, resting her forehead against his chest. "Yes," he said, voice soft but firm. "And we're together, nothing can touch us now." For the first time since the nightmare began, Ariana allowed herself to believe it. The danger was gone, Damien defeated, and in Tariq's arms she was finally safe. Outside, the city carried on, unaware of the storm that had raged in the shadows. But inside, in the quiet aftermath, love had won, and nothing, not fear, not enemies, not the past, could take that from them. Epilogue. After the storm, the city skyline gleamed in the afternoon sun, calm and indifferent to the chaos that had once shadowed their lives. Ariana stood on the balcony of her newly renovated home, the breeze brushing through her hair. For the first time in months, she felt truly free. Tariq stepped up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. She leaned into him, savoring the warmth and the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. "No more running," she whispered, resting her cheek against his chest. "Never again," he replied, pressing a soft kiss to her temple. "We survived everything, and now we can finally live." Ariana smiled, letting herself savor the moment. The contract that had once bound them was long forgotten. What remained was real: trust, passion, and a love forged in fire and danger. "You know," she said, teasing lightly, "I think we work better together than apart." Tariq chuckled, his lips brushing hers in a playful kiss. "I couldn't agree more. You're mine, and I'm yours. No contracts, no shadows, just us." They stood together, gazing at the horizon, the world bright and open before them. The nightmares, the threats, the fear, they were all behind them. What mattered now was the life they would build together, and in that life, there was only love, laughter, and the unshakable promise that no force, no danger could ever pull them apart again. Hand in hand, Ariana and Tarek stepped into the sunlight, ready to embrace the future they had fought so fiercely to claim.